Today at the Dietary Restriction Kitchen, we're going to do an absolute classic, and that is pork schnitzel. But in our version, it is gluten and dairy free. Absolutely delicious, very reminiscent of the classic, but in a way that a person with dietary or with restrictions can eat it and really enjoy it. And in fact, the whole family can enjoy it, and they would never know that it has no gluten or dairy in it. So let's get started on that now. Hey there, welcome to the Dietary Restriction Kitchen. I'm Nat Ryan. Today in the kitchen we're going to do something that's classic, and that is a pork schnitzel. Now ordinarily pork schnitzel has gluten in it, right? Because there's flour and there's breadcrumbs, and those have gluten. Also, a lot of the time pork schnitzel is cooked in butter. So, when they brown it in butter. Well, that's not going to work if you have to be dairy free like me. So, also we're going to cook it without butter, and so it's also going to be dairy free. So the pork schnitzel we're going to make this today is going to be gluten free and dairy free, but absolutely delicious, very classic as well. And it's a great way to do pork chops a little bit differently than you normally would, and it's wonderful, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. Well, let's get to it. So normally the first thing we're going to do is pound our pork cutlets, but what I like to do is, because we need to make them quite thin, right? We need to kind of make them thinner. But what I'm going to do, I like to set up my stations first, because we need 3 stations after the pork is pounded flat. And if we don't do it beforehand, you can get your hands messy and everything, and here you are now having to do the stations. So I like to do them first, and so we're going to set them up. We need 3 stations. We need one that has, I'm going to set that aside. We need one first station that has some GF flour, so gluten-free flour, and our herbs and spices. We'll put that in together. And of course, I forgot something to mix that up with. Okay, so we're just going to mix those up together. So that's going to be station number 1. So, right, once we're done with the cutlets, pounding them flat, which we're going to get to on the video for sure. But let's get our station set up first. So that's going to be station number 1. Okay, beautiful. Then now station number 2 is going to be eggs. Okay, so I'm not going to keep them in a small bowl. I'm going to put them in a larger bowl. I know it sounds counterintuitive to have them in a bigger bowl than the flour, but it actually works out better if your second station with the eggs is a bigger bowl. Okay, so then we're going to get those in there. Set that aside. And you can beat the eggs lightly. It doesn't have to be with a whisk. It could be with a fork. You just want a light beating on those eggs. So nothing too crazy, right? So it's going to be like dipping them into that, because that'll be station number 2. Sorry, I had to put that in the sink. And then station number 3, okay, let's set that back a little bit, is going to be where the breadcrumbs are. Now you could do it in a bowl, but I like to do it this way. So what we've got is our breadcrumbs here. And I'm going to put about half on this plate and half on that plate. Now I know that sounds weird, but just bear with me here, because about half there. So you need a good couple of cups of breadcrumbs. So, and they want to be gluten-free, obviously. You're going to have gluten-free breadcrumbs, right? So yeah, so we're just going to divide them up loosely into 2. I use these breadcrumbs. Now, this is plain. They're not seasoned. I was looking at the seasoned breadcrumbs at the store, because I thought, well, maybe we'll give it a try. Looking at the ingredients, and it contained Romano cheese. So I was like, well, I got to be dairy free. That's not going to work for me. So you got to really watch your labels. Even if something says gluten free, to think, well, that'll be fine. You have to watch, because if you have other dietary restrictions, you're going to have to check your labels. Always check labels. So here we go. So let's go through that again. So we're going to have station 1 is the flour and the seasoned flour. Station 2 is the eggs, which we're going to dip afterwards. And station 3 is our breadcrumbs. All right, so the next thing, I'm going to set it up and we're going to pound our pork flat. So let's do that next. Okay, so we've got our pork over here, and like I got a big package of pork. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pork cutlets in there. Could be any kind of pork chops as long as they are boneless. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to put this here on top, is I'm just going to open up my pack, right? And then we're going to get those pork cutlets, or pork chops, on here. So 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So let me just set that packaging aside. We don't need that. Now, I've got the scissors, right? These are kitchen scissors. You could use a knife, any little bit of thing. It's not bad on these. Sometimes I really have to trim them up. Like there's that big piece of fat on the side. Do I really want that? So sometimes I just trim it up a little bit. You don't have to do that. It's really entirely up to yourself. That's okay. It's just if it's thick bits, then I don't like to keep them on there. So I like to just trim them up a bit. So you just trim them up a little bit if you want. Okay, so I'm going to put them sort of, so you see I have a really big piece of parchment paper here. I'm going to separate them out, and quite separated, because as you flatten these, they will spread out, right? So we don't really want them overlapping. So we've got a big piece of parchment paper there. Then we're going to have another big piece of parchment paper on the top, right? Okay, and then I have this guy. So we need something heavy to pound them with. Okay, so here we go. We're going to pound it. I'm going to go from the back towards the camera. So here we go. Have a look. See, that's going pretty flat. Okay, so you got quite good there. All right, so that should be pretty good. As you can see, they're flattened out quite a bit. You can make them as thin as you want. Of course, the thinner they are, the faster they'll cook, right? So, but not to worry. You can leave them slightly thicker than me. You don't have to have them like super thin, because we finished them off in the oven, so that's okay. But you know, you can make them really skinny if you want it. But there they are. They're pounded, and as you can see, the parchment paper saved it from splatting everywhere, and saved our counter a little bit too. So I really suggest using something like that. Okay, on to the next stage. Okay, so here's where things get messy. Okay, so we've got, remember, stage 1 or step 1, step 2, and step 3, and this is where we're going to put them once we got them all coated. Okay, so we're going to take a cutlet, right, that we've done, and we're going to put it in the flour. Okay, let me just grab this flour a little bit. And we're just going to coat them in the flour. So we got that one coated. Now you could do all of them this way. Like you could take all of them and do the flour first. Absolutely, I've done that before, and just set them right back onto the parchment they were on, because that doesn't make any difference. So I'm going to do it that way today. Get them all step 1 done. So get the step 1 all done on all 6 of these. I don't know why I want to keep saying that there's 5. There's actually 6. It's early in the morning. It is 4:15 on a Saturday morning. So I really hope the neighbors didn't mind too much me pounding on my pork this morning, making a bunch of noise in my kitchen. I really hope not. We live in a duplex, so I mean, I was thinking, how do I do this without making noise? And I'm like, well, you're gonna make noise. It's just, yeah. And this is really good recipe, so I really wanted to do it. Okay, so now we are done with stage 1. Okay, so we've got it coated in the flour mixture. Okay, and then we're going to take it and dip it in the egg. So here it goes, dip in the egg, dip in the egg. Now we're going to make sure we get that little bit. See how it drips off? We don't need it to be, we want to let some of that dip off, and then we're going to put it in our breadcrumbs, right? So we'd like to push it down a little bit so it'll stick, and then turn it over and stick it to the other side as well. So we've got breadcrumbs on both sides. See, like this, you got breadcrumbs on both sides. We're just going to put it there for now. Okay, so now, as you can see, your fingers are going to get coated in this stuff. So take another one that we've already done step 1. So now we're in step 2 with the egg wash. Let that drip off a little bit. I need some on that corner. Okay, let it drip off a bit and put it in the breadcrumbs. Then flip it over. I like to just make sure we get enough stuck to it, and even on the side a little bit, and then there. So that's 2. Okay, so now this is step 2 for the third one. You can see that this gets messy, right? I don't know if there's a way to do this without getting messy. I mean, if you've got some tips or hints or whatever to do this without getting your hands coated in it, I'd love to hear it. Like, let me know, drop me a line, put something in the comments there to let me know about that, because I'd really be interested. And so, okay, so that's 3. Let's get the 4th one in the egg. Okay, let it drip off a bit. So you can see it is messy. I don't mind getting messy, but some people really don't want things on their hands. So I don't know. Maybe there is a way to do that. Or maybe you could put some gloves on, some little plastic gloves on or something like that. It doesn't really matter to me. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to my other pan a little bit. My other little plate of breadcrumbs. Okay, so that's 4. Here, I'm going to do. Okay, so I got plenty on that one. All right, 2 more to do. Okay, drip it off, stick it on the pan, just kind of tamp it down a little bit, just so it, like breadcrumbs will stick to it. Tamp down on the other side, maybe a bit on the edge, and then we have 1 more to do. In the not the breadcrumbs yet. We need to put the egg, right? So here we go. Dip it in the egg, breadcrumbs. Now, a lot of the time at the end, you're almost going to have to encourage it to stick, because things get this poor guy at the bottom. He's got the dregs, right? He's got the dregs of this. So there we go. We're nicely coated. We're going to put it in the pan. And the next stage is going to be to brown those on both sides. But before we do, as you can see, I'm going to have to demuckify my hands. So we're going to get to that in just 1 second. We're going to get to frying these just as soon as I clean up. Okay, so here's our next stage. I'm going to brown the cutlets in the electric frying pan. I've already got it turned on quite high to 350. And you can use olive oil, or I'm using coconut oil. We're going to get a good portion of that on there. I don't know if you've seen me with this before, but I like using this. We need it to be coated. This is a great, like if you have an electric frying pan or anything like non-stick, this works really well. You do need some fat in there, okay? And of course we want it to be dairy-free, if you have to be dairy-free, which I do. 1 sec. Why do I always forget an implement? I don't know. Okay. Sugar. Okay. So, I'm going to take a cutlet, throw that in there. Now, I don't think I can get all 6 of these in my frying pan at once. So what I'm going to do is like you could do 4 in here. I can do 4 this time and 2 the other time, or I can just do 3. So I think I'll do 3 and 3. So what we're going to do is brown them off for 2 minutes on each side. I've got a timer here, but you don't need to do that. You just do it. Oh golly, this old timer. Come on. Is it going? There it goes. Ah, that thing. Okay, and if you are using an electric frying pan, or you're using a pan with a non-stick coating, don't use metal utensils in it, because then you'll scratch the surface all to heck with it. Okay, so we're going to brown each side. Now you can see that these cutlets are still pretty thick. Probably could be a little thinner. Now the reason why I didn't, because here I am pounding away on pork cutlets at friggin' 4 o'clock in the morning, and I don't want it to disturb my neighbors too much, so I'm like, but you can make them as thin as you want, and then, you know, go for it. But it's not a big deal, because when I make these, I always finish them off in the oven. I don't try to cook them all the way through in my frying pan, because I find, personally myself, that if I do it that way, then I find that the pork schnitzels are quite tough, and it's easy to get them sort of burnt on the outside, and then trying to get the insides cooked through. I know. You know, so I always like to finish them off the oven. The other reason too, if you finish off in the oven, what you can do is you can brown your pork cutlets. You can do a bunch of these cutlets at a time. Brown them on both sides. Cook what you want that day, like what your family and you are going to eat that day. And then you can save their other ones, right? So you can let them cool off after they're browned. Put them in containers or bags or whatever. Put them in your freezer. Then take some out that you need later. Thaw them out in the fridge. Then finish them off in the oven. Do you know what I mean? So it could be a 2-stage thing. So you can make a bunch of these ahead and then freeze some. So in this case, for me, because I have a 3-person family, and my daughter won't eat a lot. So this actually represents about 3 meals for my family. Okay, there's my 2 minutes. We're going to turn them over. Woo! Okay. Okay, see that one's really nice and brown on that end. So I'm going to move you this way. I'm going to put him up there where he was. Yeah, so then we're going to brown the other side of that. Okay. So I'm doing this because we're getting a little bit of that. So we're going to brown the other side. And you can see it kind of sears it, and then it makes the breadcrumbs really stick on there pretty good. So there we go. So I got another pan here handy, by the way. I put just a little bit of cooking spray with the parchment paper, because that's what those are going to go on to put them in the oven afterwards. So yeah, so we're not going to use the same pan that we had them in prior to cooking them. That turned itself off. It did. I hate that with electric frying pans, but it should still brown. Come on, baby. I like my electric frying pan. You may have noticed that if you've watched any of my other videos. I find it so handy. But you can fry them up on the stove in any kind of pan you want. If you have a cast iron pan, you could use that. You know, if you're really patient, you can just cook them all the way through in the frying pan. I just really, really like to do them in the oven. Like finish them off in the oven. I really like that. Okay, so that should be it. That should be the biscuit on that. Okay, so let's see. Let's just see. Let's just toss it over. Not as browned on that side, but that's okay. Got a good browning on one side and that little bit of browning there. Okay, so then we're going to take our other pan. Wants to slide away on me. And put them in our. And there they are, and we're going to put them in the oven for 20 to 30 minutes, probably 20 minutes, but they are a bit thick, so I might even go 30. and then we'll give them a check in about 20 minutes. And yeah, to finish them off at 350 oven. So we're going to put them in there. And in the meantime, I'm going to brown the other ones, but off camera. All right, so they've been in the oven for a while, and you can see they get juicy and the juices are kind of trying to run out of them. So let's give it a try. I'm going to cut into one of them and see if it's cooked in the middle. So let me just cut a little bit into that and see if we've got some action. So I'm looking closely, and you can see that that's pretty good there. Okay, see? So you can see that it's that. I would give that even another 5 minutes, and then we will try it out, because I think we could do another 5 minutes on those. So let's do that, and then we'll come back. All right, so I have put them back in for about 5 minutes, and of course this, if I look at where I cut before, of course, see, now that's definitely done. But let's kind of cut into this one here. I'm not even going to cut all the way through, but yeah, no, that's cooked for sure. Absolutely cooked for sure. Okay, so fantastic. It smells amazing. Oh my gosh, not for the first time. I wish I could share the smell with you on the video. Oh my goodness. Someone's got to invent the smellorama. Honestly, it's fantastic. Well, let's give it a try and see if it tastes as good as it smells, because I think it will, but let's try it out. All right, so let's give the pork schnitzel a try. So our gluten-free pork schnitzel, I've got some here. I've already pre-cut it because, cut my piece, and I'm just going to put a little lemon juice on the top there because it's really, really good with lemon, okay? You may not want to. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Really good. And I'm usually one that wants a lot of salt and pepper, and I can eat that without any more, but that lemon's really good. Really tasty. Really nice way to do pork chops. You can do them super thin. I didn't do them super thin today because, see, it wasn't super thin. Because conscious of my neighbors, but because it's very early in the morning. However, you can make them as thin as you want. They're great with lemon, especially fresh lemon, like a fresh lemon, and just give it a squeeze. Or, of course, applesauce. There's a traditional thing to have with pork, right? Or ranch dressing. Now, ranch dressing is tough if you have to be dairy-free. There is dairy-free ranch dressings, or like maybe it's just your family. Maybe that's a way for your family to enjoy it. So, and maybe they don't have to be dairy-free like mine is that way. So that's another way to have on it. So you can have lemon on the table. You could have some applesauce on the table, maybe, and also some ranch dressing to enjoy it with that. So it's very good. I hope you give them a try, and it's a great way to say, look, I can have the classic schnitzel, but I don't have to worry about not being, because this doesn't have any dairy or gluten in. That's a great way to do it, right? And so that's what we're about here at the Dietary Restriction Kitchen, is just showing you how to take recipes that you ordinarily wouldn't be able to eat because of your restrictions, and making them in a way that you can, and just doing it your own way. Absolutely, you do it your way. So I hope you really give it a try, because it is lovely. And thanks for stopping by today here at the Dietary Restriction Kitchen. Really appreciate you. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.